Another skill we'll use in this unit is to compare two graphs that are graphed on the same grid. So having two lines on one graph is a great way for understanding trends. And an example here would be, what's the percent difference between films that are shot digitally or films that are shot with film, classic film, in 2015? And so we have this graph of the shooting format, and the orange line is showing us digital films, and the blue line is showing us films that were shot on film. So you can see the trends. The film shot on film have been dropping for quite a while in recent history, and meanwhile the digital film has been shooting up in popularity. But here in 2015, what's the difference? So the difference is going to be the films, the percent on digital minus the percent on film. That's what difference means. And so that'll tell us the gap between the two, or how much higher is the number shot on digital, percent shot on digital. So the percent shot on digital looks like it's pretty close to 90%, so let's call it about 89%. And we're going to subtract the percent shot on film, which is pretty close to 20, maybe that's about 22% here, reading over across the y-axis. So 89 minus 22 is 67%. So 67% more films are shot digitally than using film. So here's a really pretty frightening graph that came out in the news a little while ago. This is showing Canada's current greenhouse gas emissions here, this gray line, leading up until this was released in about 2014 or 2013 maybe. And then, so that gray line is the actual emissions, and then the red line is a worst case scenario of our greenhouse gas emissions coming up. Blue case is actually a best case scenario based on our current government policies and our current practices as Canadians. And then also on this graph are our targets that we made at different environmental summits, like the Copenhagen Summit or G7 summits, things like that. So using this graph, we can ask how far above our 2030 target will we be in even the best case scenario? So again, we have to keep in mind how we read this graph. We were told that the best case scenario was this blue line, and so we can find the point in 2030 for the blue line, and then just confirming that it's 2030. Then we can also identify down here the 2030 target that's on the same graph. And so how far above that target will we be? Again, we're going to use subtraction to find the difference between those two values. So it's going to be 765, well, watts. That's going to be megatons of CO2. So 765 megatons. Subtract the 524 megaton goal. So 765 minus 524, that's 241 megatons. So even in the best case scenario, will be 241 megatons of CO2 above our goal.